Missouri almost beats Georgia. Ole Miss beats Kentucky. Alabama loses Bryce Young, and more in this recap of college football week 5. Not as always, I'm your host, Grant Skill, and joining me today is your normal host, Grant Ingram. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I feel usurped, but I think it's probably best for the show anyway, so.
It is, yeah, I'm just better. No, I'm kidding. So, I'll let you go ahead and take over, but wow, what a weekend.
It was an incredible weekend. I will say the highlight of it for me was watching my Kansas State Wildcats take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders and tell them to put it in the holster and keep it in their pants. Grant, what was the highlight of your college football week?
The highlight of my week would have been if Georgia had lost, but since that didn't happen, I would say it was Alabama overcoming Bryce Young's injury to be able to beat Arkansas, who admittedly did not look good for more than 5 minutes of the game, but still an impressive showing for when Bryce Young is out.
Yeah, it was solid. I was, surprised that Arkansas held on and also that they didn't. Like, I expected them to have a little bit more life, but then once the game started, I was expecting them to be a little quicker dead,
Yeah, it was not a close game to start. We were up, I think it was already 14-0 until Bryce got hurt. He came out and we kind of kept the scoring going. Wasn't always the best drives. We had a lot of huge plays, would certainly help.
Right.
So even though we got like 2.5 quarters of Jalen Milroe, we really didn't see a ton of them. Didn't have much to do. I thought it was funny. They had the in-game analysis by Bill O'Brien, Alabama's offense coordinator, for those who don't know, and he said, heck of a runner, can't throw outside of the numbers.
That's very true, and could barely throw inside of the numbers. And I think he had a 70-yard run, and I know that there were a couple other 70-yard runs that happened in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, he had like a 72, and then Jahmyr Gibbs had like a 77 and a 71. Both of Jahmyr's were touchdowns. Milroe's was not a touchdown.
He got brought down, what, the 2?
Yeah, something. There was a touchdown like the next player the play after.
Yeah, but stats-wise, it was not.
Yeah, I mean, but other than we Grant and I talked about this, but other than the couple minutes, Arkansas really didn't do much. They got the touchdown going into half, which was good. Came out, punted, and then scored a touchdown. I believe at that point it was 28-14.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, so they got the touchdown with 8 minutes left in the third quarter, made it 28-14. Then went for the sneaky onside. Great idea by Sam Pittman to get more momentum in their favor, because even with that touchdown, momentum still wasn't fully on their side. Unfortunately for them, they drove down to the 4, but they weren't able to convert it to a touchdown. They had to go for a field goal. Then Alabama got the ball back, 3 and out, and then our punter messed up, or the long snapper messed up the snap, threw it past our punter and gave them the ball at like the 3-yard line.
Yep.
So we really shot ourselves in the foot there. But really after that, Arkansas didn't show a bunch of signs of life, and we just kept having big play after big play and put the game out of reach really not that long after.
Yeah, it was over before it started. But then Arkansas, pretended to be alive, and then they didn't anymore, and it was over. Now Arkansas is unranked, which you got to feel bad for the boys at BYU, because they were looking forward to playing at number 10 Arkansas, and now they're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, that would have been a nice win for BYU if that had happened.
Or maybe
kind of like Notre Dame, Arkansas doesn't look like they may be as great of a win.
Or like Oklahoma.
Or Oklahoma, yeah, that would be the example. Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Ugh.
That said, in my Kansas State Wildcats defense, I will say Oklahoma was missing their starting quarterback because he got hit in the head, which we wish him...
He did get hit in the head. He was like 6 of 17 before he got hit in the head. It may have helped him out.
Yeah.
In reality.
It might have. I don't know. But that is something you kind of have to look, because they don't have that comeback potential that he brings. As we continue, shall we talk about the TCU?
We can talk about TCU. This is what's staying in. TCU looked good. Honestly, it makes me wonder, is it that TCU looked good, or is it just that Oklahoma has not looked good. I mean, you could make the argument TCU's ranked like 16 now. Kansas State, I believe, is in the top 25 too. You can make
We're
the
20.
argument that they were playing good teams. Yeah. Or you can make the argument that they just look awful.
Yeah.
I'm on as a neutral non-Big 12 fan, I think they have looked awful.
They have looked a little rough. I will give you that.
Dylan Gabriel had a decent game against Kansas State. He had a good game, but he missed a couple big plays. He was not 6 of 17. He was 7 of 16.
Yeah.
Before he got hurt. So he wasn't doing much anyways. The backup came in and was honestly about the same.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind that him not doing much, there is always the potential that he breaks out some sort of big play, right? And so...
There is, but big plays don't matter when your defense gave up 55 to TCU.
Yep.
Nothing against TCU, but you're not going to win a game if you give up 55 to TCU.
You are not. And that sounds like there is something against TCU, and I'm surprisingly okay with that. This week TCU pulled in Alabama. Their running back had a 69-yard rush, and their quarterback had a 67-yard rush. Nice.
And their quarterback threw a 73-yard touchdown. So those are 3 huge plays that were given up by that Oklahoma defense.
That is absolutely a big deal. I will say, if we look sort of at Oklahoma's schedule coming up, they do play Texas this week in the Red River Shootout.
I've got Texas. Quinn Ewers is confirmed to be back for this game.
I saw my personal favorite meme. Texas has decided that they're going to be unveiling some new uniforms for this next week. They're going to be purple.
Yeah, it was Kansas State ugly purple.
They're going to be purple. I mean, TCU's purple too, so that's why. Because they haven't beaten Oklahoma in like 6 years. It's been rough.
Yeah. Another great game mentioned in the intro was the Ole Miss Kentucky game. Not a super high scoring game, 22-19, but boy, that was full of some ups and downs. I don't know if you were able to watch that or not.
Which game again? I'm sorry.
Ole Miss Kentucky.
I was not able to watch. Sorry, I was on that for a second looking at recording grounds.
The last score of the game came with 3 minutes left in the third quarter.
Wow.
Ole Miss in the fourth quarter went down, drove down the Kentucky 5, went forward on a 4th and goal from the 5-yard line, didn't get it. Kentucky went 74 yards to the Mississippi 19, and then Will Levis fumbled it on a sack. Ole Miss 3 and out, so Ole Miss is up 3 at this point with the drive starting with 2 minutes left. Kentucky drives down the field, gets to the Mississippi 7, commits a illegal motion penalty, drops back to the 12, so 1st and goal from the 12. Will Levis gets sacked again, fumbles again, and Ole Miss recovers it.
Dang.
So that was twice that Kentucky got into the Ole Miss red zone, and then Will Levis fumbled the game away. Quite literally fumbled the game away twice. If they could have gotten even a field goal on either of those drives, it would have ended up being a tie game.
I mean, that's kind of like what happened with Missouri, right? Where Missouri was, looking at, gosh darn it, they were looking at a touchdown going into half, and then they had a false start, backed them from the 1 to the 5 or the 6, and they just had to settle for a field goal and lost by 4 points, which will get you beat every daggum stinking time.
Yeah, the craziest thing, Missouri was up 13-0 on Georgia with 9 minutes left in the second quarter. After that, they only got field goals. I mean, they only scored 1 touchdown, and the rest of their points were field goals.
What was impressive to me is they kept Georgia to so many touchdowns.
Yeah, Georgia's offense looked out of sync, looked like a high school team out there trying to play against a SEC team.
Yeah. Against a former Big 12 team that Kansas State beat by how many, Grant? 30?
I don't know.
Was it 30 that I heard? 30?
I don't know. I don't think it's, like we talked about, I don't think it's a great thing to compare games like that, especially this, because the question is this an anomaly with Georgia, or is it not? They showed some weakness against Kent State, but this is the first time their offense has truly struggled. And boy, did they struggle through about 3.5 quarters of that game.
The offense died, got buried, rose from the casket with about 5 minutes to go. And
they were getting some consistent field goals in the second quarter. They got 2 on their last. Let me pull up drives. I just have this. They got 2 consecutive field goals to end the half. Got the ball back. They scored on 6 straight drives. Granted, most of those were field goals.
Yeah. Yes.
So not looking great, but the offense gained some consistency late in the second quarter into the second half. But this did not look like the Georgia team that should have been number 1. In fact, Alabama is actually now number 1 over Georgia.
Right. Now, I will say, if you look at it, and this, again, you're comparing apples to oranges, this is a Georgia team that was getting consistent field goals, and we're saying that because the game was going so bad, that looks pretty decent. But if you look at, the Kansas State.
Well, I'm just saying their offense went from nothing to decent enough to drive down the field and get field goals to eventually scoring touchdowns. Their offense looked awful, but they managed to turn it around. I don't really know what happened because Georgia's been a very disciplined team, ready for every game. But then Kent State, they gave up the same amount of points that Kent State as Missouri. I think they're without Jalen Carter, who is their sort of Jordan Davis type player this year. That could certainly be a big factor because that's a big boy in the middle of the defensive line.
Yeah, but we had more yards against Missouri. I don't know what's going on there, honestly.
I mean, y'all have a better offense than Missouri, but that's not saying a whole lot.
No, I'm saying we have more yards against Missouri than, Georgia did.
Yeah, I think the real question is this going to keep happening for Georgia? Because today showed that Georgia's offense can struggle. And that's what you and I had talked about all year, is their defense is not as good, and it has shown the past 2 weeks. Can their offense consistently be good enough to drive down the field for touchdowns? Yeah. This past game, they showed for most of the game, no, they couldn't. Their offense looked dysfunctional. They were having to get field goals. They were slowly improving as the game went on, eventually into getting touchdown drives, essentially just running the ball because Stetson Bennett was 22 or 24 or 44. But this looked like a Georgia team that if Georgia showed up like this against Alabama, or if they showed up like this against Tennessee, Georgia's getting blown out.
Yeah.
If Tennessee played the Georgia team that Missouri faced, it would have been 30-0 in the second quarter. Because that Tennessee offense is full throttle, nonstop. They're going to take you down if you give them the chance.
Right. It's ridiculous. I don't think Georgia... I mean, I'm starting to question, and this is stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm a podcaster and we all say dumb things. What does Auburn look like against Georgia? How close
I don't think Auburn looks good. Because Auburn looked good for about 5 minutes of that game last week.
Well, but if we recap those... I mean, that full game, right? If we recap that, the thing that lost them the game was turnovers. If they avoid turnovers, I mean, they might have a chance.
You're asking a lot of Auburn now from what we've seen this year.
Okay, but their quarterback actually looked solid this past week. He was making some plays. I will say, I had pulled it up on ESPN. Ticket prices are crazy, but it's really funny to watch because Auburn's $119. Vanderbilt's $101. Florida's $131.
I'm surprised the
Tennessee tickets as low as $336. Yeah. That's a home game for the Dogs. We'll see. But I do think Auburn might have a chance. Now, do I think they have enough chance to put them on my pick six? Absolutely freaking not. But they are a team to watch out for because that LSU game was close. LSU's ranked now. LSU doesn't look like an awful team to lose to. I'll tell you who does look like an awful team to lose to. Auburn. But Georgia might just find a way to pull it off. Now, that said, if Auburn can do it, Auburn will have to then go and play Mississippi, then Arkansas, then State, then A&M. They get a break with Western Kentucky. Those tickets only cost $5, by the way, in case you're looking to go to an Auburn game. No. And then you can go to the Alabama game, and that will be awful. That's just a tough schedule. You're going to have a hard time. It's going to be a rough life if you're an Auburn fan.
Yeah, and something we forgot to mention, or didn't necessarily forget, I forgot in the intro, Mississippi State being Texas A&M. This is one that both you and I called.
Actually, I don't think I called it. I think I picked A&M for that game. I'll have to look.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look and see. I remember at least talking about it. I think at least that it was possible.
I think I might have mispicked my pick 6. Honestly, that sounds like something I would do.
See, I had Mississippi State all the way, and it was for the reason that ended up happening. It's that A&M's team now. Max Johnson is hurt. He has a broken bone in his throwing hand. Some reports saying he might be out for the year.
I did call State.
That's okay. Yeah, I thought you did. We don't know for sure Max is out for the year, but that's a big blow for their team. Not that the offense really didn't do a whole lot, but now that he's hurt, your options are Haynes King, who came into the game was 6 of 13 for 49 yards and 2 picks. Continued looking like Haynes King. Or your other option is Connor Weigman.
Wooguman.
Live, yes.
Live.
Connor Weigman, whatever his name is,
Woogman.
5-star quarterback. Talked about him in the other video where I said Jimbo should be fired. Or could be fired. Actually, I saw an article this week that are like, ignore the buyouts because colleges have way too much money to spend anyways. So
yeah, Brian Harson's not going to have a job after they do. They will happily part with $10 million. That's just a prediction.
Deion Sanders is reported to be the potential candidates to replace him. That would be interesting.
Okay, so this is actually something I would like to spend a moment to talk about.
Let's continue A&M.
We'll continue A&M, then we'll go back to Auburn.
Yeah, Haynes King does not look like he's that guy. You're not that guy, pal.
You're not that guy.
He seems like he's genuinely talented. The problem is, in his 3 games that he's played in this year, first game was against Sam Houston State, maybe, whatever that acronym is, I'm not sure. 20 of 31 for 364, 3 touchdowns, so that looks good, but then he threw 2 picks. Second start, Appalachian State, he goes 13 of 20 for 97 yards, no touchdowns, no picks.
Nice.
Gets benched because he did that numbers against Appalachian State. And then he comes back in 6 of 13 for 49 yards, 2 picks.
Yep.
He has not looked good. He
has very much not.
Almost to the point where it's like, why would you even consider starting this guy again? Just put Connor in. He may not look great either. There will probably be growing pains because he's a true freshman quarterback. But it can't be much worse than what you're getting out of Haynes King. I don't see the downside. If Max Johnson's out, just throw him in there and let him learn. I don't see any downside to it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I don't think Jimbo has to worry about his job, so that makes it almost even more confusing as to why.
If I'm Jimbo, I'm not worried because if they fire me, I'm still getting my $95 million.
My 95. Is that the buyout for Jimbo?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
I believe it's a fully guaranteed 10-year, $95 million contract.
I didn't think it was fully guaranteed.
I think it is. It's like, did you hear what Ed Orgeron said about when he got let go from LSU?
No.
So they're like, all right, coach, we're going to let you go, and we're going to pay you the $27 million left you have left on your contract. He said, great, happy to go. Which store do you want me to go out of?
But he said, great, happy to go. What do you want me to go out of? Oh.
If I'm Jimbo, I'm not worried because you either keep the job or they fire you and you get tens of millions of dollars.
And you can go immediately go find your work.
Worried. Yeah.
Like on Jimbo, I'm almost wanting to be fired.
Jimbo will get a job even if he gets fired. No question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he can always go to UTSA or San Jose State or
Arizona State.
Wisconsin. Speaking of Wisconsin, I don't know. Something happened in Wisconsin. I saw it was a big deal.
Oh, no.
No, Wisconsin fired their coach after losing to Illinois.
Yeah, they did.
But speaking of coach firings, because we promised to come back to this, Brian Harsin at Auburn. What do you think he has to do to save his job?
Beat Alabama.
You think that's it? Do you think if he beats Alabama, Auburn turns down Deion?
It depends if Deion's interested or if he ends up getting another job. You saw Gus Malzahn. Gus should have been fired years before he was, but he kept pulling off, like every other year, he'd pull off some stupid win against Alabama.
Right, but the thing is, Gus wasn't actively being hunted by the university. We've seen from this past year that Brian Harsin is actively being hunted by the university. He was asked this past week if he thought he'd have a job by the end of the year. That's literally what they asked him. They're like, do you think you'll finish the year as Auburn's head coach? And he said, look, we have to try. That was pretty much his response. Look, we have to try. I don't see a reason to fire him if I'm Auburn right now.
You want to keep him this year.
I don't see a reason to fire him after 2 years anyway. He has not had a chance to build his own program.
He's not been given a fair chance, but we'll see how this season goes. If they end, what's their record right now?
They're 3-2.
I don't know. If they end like 5-6 or 7, whatever that math is, I think you fire the guy.
You think with a losing season you fire him?
I think so.
So 6-6.
What was their record? What was their record last year?
I think they were 6-6. Maybe 5-7.
If he's 6-6 again, I think he gets fired.
So you think he has to win 7 games? Let's look and see, because I've got this pulled up because I'm a cool guy. What does Auburn have to do to win 7 games? Well, they have to beat either Georgia or Mississippi or Arkansas.
Maybe because
or
Arkansas's
Mississippi
defense
State
looks like nothing. Mississippi State, no.
A&M.
Maybe. Haynes King might lose him in that game if he's the quarterback.
Western Kentucky.
Honestly, don't know that they win that game.
Alabama. So you've got 7. You've got 7 games to win 4.
Maybe 2 winnable.
Who are you going to beat out of that lineup?
You beat Western Kentucky, hopefully, and you beat what was the other team?
Maybe A&M.
Maybe A&M. Maybe Arkansas.
So they might have a chance to go 6-6 if they can pull off the 3 maybe winnable.
Yeah, because you don't beat Georgia. I don't think they beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State's offense is just too good. They might beat
Ole Miss. Tulsa put up a good fight against Ole Miss.
I think Ole Miss needs some more time because they've got Jackson Dart at quarterback. He looks good. A little inconsistent throwing, but he's got talent. He's going to be good. I think the longer this season goes on, the more scary this Ole Miss team will be.
Well, but that Ole Miss team you're going to see in 2 weeks, so maybe.
I still like Ole Miss pretty easily.
The thing is, looking at Brian Harsin, like in terms of how the heck can he keep his job, he started off with Mercer. He beat Mercer. He then played San Jose State. That was close. That's a bad sign. He then lost to Penn State, big, but it wasn't that bad it was that bad in the second half.
Yeah, we happen to be friends with someone who is close with someone who's at Auburn, and I know firsthand because the next week I was up in Tennessee.
One of my best friends is there too, so
yeah. I happen to know that Auburn fans did not feel great about that game going into it, and definitely did not feel good coming out of it.
No, that's rough. And then they lost to Penn. And then they beat Missouri by 3 in overtime. Which, to be fair, Georgia beat Missouri by 4.
Missouri lost that. Like, Missouri lost the Georgia game. Missouri lost that game. We went over that. The kicker didn't warm up, missed like a 20-yard field goal.
If you're a
then
kicker,
in
call.
overtime, they jumped offsides and Auburn missed a field goal. Then the guy fumbled at the 1 trying to transition the ball from his left hand to his right hand.
Yeah.
It was tragic.
So you could say maybe you beat LSU? I mean, they should have won the LSU game, but I'm saying going into it, maybe you beat LSU.
Maybe.
My question is what more could Brian Harsin have done?
Beat San Jose State, beat Missouri.
Well,
not let those games even be close.
He beat both of those teams, and you're right, but Georgia also let Missouri.
Did they win the San Jose? I thought they lost that game.
No, they won it by 8. It was just ugly. And now...
Yeah, that was a bad one.
In all fairness, they got rid of TJ Finley. Now Robbie Ashford's playing. And
I think didn't Finley get hurt?
I don't know, but Ashford's playing, and Ashford looks good. Finley kind of... to be nice to the guy, because I'm sure he's a great and wonderful human. Finley sucks.
TJ Finley has a shoulder sprain. Speaking of shoulder sprains, if people watching don't know, that's the injury Bryce Young has.
That is.
And has him questionable for when this is releasing tomorrow against A&M. Let's see if there's an update. Honestly, okay, actually there is an update from about 15 minutes ago. Nick Saban said Bryce Young is a game-time decision. He's been able to practice this week. There's no real bad damage or anything like that to his shoulder. It's not long-term, but he's still sore. We'll have to make the decision pre-game to see if he can throw the ball well and do his job.
If I'm
Alabama, I probably don't start him, but keep him on the sideline ready in case he needs to go in.
Yeah, I think Alabama loses to A&M this week. I'm going to be at that game. I think they lose. I think they lose. I just have a feeling. I had a feeling about Oklahoma. I had a feeling. Who else did I have a feeling about? I just have a feeling. Let's just put it to that. I have a feeling.
Remember this smile. Anyone, if you're still watching this, Kaylee Live, if anyone else is watching this, just remember this smile.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I have a feeling. The skew is just right. Anyway, shall we look at the rankings?
A&M doesn't have a quarterback. A&M would be better off if they ran Wildcat the whole game versus putting a quarterback out there at this point.
Well, unless they put in that 5-star they've got coming in, because let's look at it. Bryce Young's game time. Do we think if he's game time, he's going to be back fully healthy? Definitely not. So even with your injured Milroe, whose first name I'm forgetting tragically,
Jalen
Milroe, even
next great Jalen at Alabama,
right? Well, the first one, Jalen at Alabama, kind of sucked, but this one, anyway, even with Milroe, he can't pass after the numbers or past the numbers.
You see, I don't know that I believe that. I think Bill O'Brien might be bluffing a little bit on that. He had some good throws at A-Day. His A-Day highlights are on YouTube. That boy, he got as Jalen Hurts would say, he got freaky with it.
Yeah, but I haven't seen him being able to play football.
I mean, granted, no one's really seen him play football. We'll have to see how this game goes. I mean, best case scenario for Alabama, of course, is that Bryce is feeling good enough to go and is able to make it through the game.
Right.
But I'm not... A&M right now, I'm not... If Haynes King is at quarterback, I'm not worried about that game because we'll get enough points off of Haynes King interceptions to win the game without an offense.
Well, I mean, you say that, but I'm not sure. I just am not sure. We'll see. But I've got a feeling that Alabama might take the L this week. There's not really any... I don't know who they're going to start. I do not know.
I don't think it matters. We could put me in a quarterback, and I think we win that game.
No, definitely not.
I mean, I don't want to get hit by those A&M defensive linemen. I'm just saying that's how confident I am in us winning this game.
Yeah.
We want to go ahead.
Now, Paul Feinbaum asked if Jimbo was on the hot seat at A&M, and that's kind of tough to be asking after you just signed a 9-year deal. Anyway,
it is. If he loses this game and it's not close, which I haven't, you have the inkling they're going to win. I have an inkling this game ain't going to be close, boy. If this is just like an absolute blowout and we just demolish them, he is going to be on a hot seat because the only reason he really got that extension was they had a good recruiting class and he beat Alabama,
which you would think would be enough. Anyway, shall we look at the top 25?
Yep.
Okay.
We can kind of breeze through the top 5, probably top 6.
Well, there was that one movement. Let's just read it off.
Yep.
Alabama has moved up, unfortunately.
Fortunately.
Georgia has moved down, thank God.
Mm-hmm. Alabama's got A&M. We talked about that. Georgia's got Auburn. We talked about that. Ohio State at 3. Looks like they got Michigan State coming up this weekend. That'll be an easy win for them. I don't really see this top 5 moving until Ohio State plays Michigan.
Unless Alabama goes down.
I don't see this top 5 moving until Ohio State faces Michigan or until Georgia loses to Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, except I think Alabama might go down this week. After that, I don't see much. Georgia's also going to be kind of, we'll see. Anyway.
Number 5, we've got Clemson. We didn't mention them. They beat NC State.
That's a good win. I think Clemson might be back this year.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely a good win. They've got, I think that's Boston College coming up.
Yeah.
6th, we've got USC. They beat Arizona State. That game was close in the first half. Second half, they came out and just blew them out of the water. Looks like they've got, I think that's Washington State. Yep, coming up. Washington State is one.
And that's one of our pick'ems.
25. That should be a decent game. I don't think USC loses. 7, we got Oklahoma State. They beat Baylor. They've got Texas Tech coming up this weekend. That could be an interesting game. But given Texas Tech just lost to some scrubs, I don't think that's going to be a hard one.
To some scrubs. Now, Texas Tech did beat Texas. Beat them harder than Alabama did.
Beat them against the backup quarterback.
Which is what Alabama did.
Yeah, again, I don't know that it's great to compare team versus team.
I'm just saying Kansas State's better than Alabama.
After I'll get through 8 and then I'll let you take over. 8, we got Tennessee coming off of a bye week. Their last win was still against Florida. A good win that ended up being close because they didn't close the game great. They've got LSU coming up this weekend in Baton Rouge. That's the only thing that can make this an interesting game. I don't think Tennessee has a hard time here.
I don't either. Coming in at number 9, we have Ole Miss. They're up 5 after beating Kentucky. That's going to be interesting. Now, if we look ahead, they have Vanderbilt. I didn't realize Vanderbilt was still putting out a program. It should be fun. Now, at number 10, we have an unbeaten Penn State. They're up 1. I believe they beat somebody. They beat Northwestern, and it was close. But they've got Michigan. Never mind. I'm sorry. They've got a bye week this week. They have Michigan next week. Then, if we look ahead, we have the Utes coming in at 11. They're up 1 after beating Oregon State. And then they play UCLA. That'll be a game for reasons we'll talk about in a minute. Then we have Oregon at 12. They're up 1 as well. I believe they beat somebody. Let's see. That was Stanford. They beat Stanford. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they beat the trees. Then Kentucky, they lost. They fell down 6. They're at 13th. They are coming up against Ole Miss. No, I'm sorry. I'm stupid. They're coming up against South Carolina.
You are stupid.
I am very dumb. Then we have North Carolina State coming off their loss at Clemson. Or to Clemson, they came down 4 spots, which isn't awful. They're playing Florida State. I don't know who I've got there. It should be a decent game. Then Wake Forest up 7. They bounced back after losing to Clemson. I believe they beat Florida State. Great. Mm-hmm. Then they've got Army.
Wake Forest looked good. Sam Hartman being back's really helped them out. Offense looks really good.
Yep.
Going to be a tough team to stop. Only the Clemson defense so far has been able to stop them and take them down. Even then, the defense didn't really stop them. They just got outscored in that game.
Right. Now, then coming up next at 16, we have BYU up 3 spots after beating Utah State 26-38. Which is kind of rough. But then they've got Notre Dame, the formerly Fighting Irish.
Not just the Irish.
The Irish. And I think BYU's got a decent shot there, though people are predicting Notre Dame for some weird reason. I guess you never bet against the Irish, but sometimes you have to.
I am. People are, what do you mean? It's 66-34 BYU.
Okay, well, Bing is showing me something else. Maybe Bing's smoking.
Anyway, I'm on the ESPN pick 'em.
I see. Well, that's a different that's a different swing. Bettors are betting one way. Anyway, TCU, this is the big one. They're playing Kansas. They are currently 17th.
That's also one of the pick'ems.
Yeah, well, game day is going to be in Lawrence, Kansas, at TCU, Kansas.
Interesting.
Yep. Obviously they beat Oklahoma. We talked about that. I don't know.
You would think Penn State, Michigan would be a better one to be at, unless they're saving Michigan. I don't know where Ohio State, Michigan is, but I'm sure they'll be there for that one.
They will be, and I would imagine that's why. Maybe they just want to go to Lawrence, Kansas, because Kansas hasn't fielded a football team since 2009. Then we've got
you could say they still haven't, but they're 5-0, so
yeah, they're pulling it off. Then we've got UCLA. They beat Washington. That's a decent win, and they've got Utah. That'll be a tight game. Then Kansas, as we just talked about, they're going to TCU, or they're hosting TCU rather. They're coming in at 19.
Then immediately after, as should be the second best team in Kansas, Kansas State.
Kansas State, we are going and playing Iowa State in Farmageddon, baby. Emal, we're coming off 2 good wins up. 5 spots. I think if we beat Iowa State convincingly, we'll be possibly in the top 15.
Maybe. It depends how some of these games shake out ahead of them. We'll have a couple drop, like Penn State, Michigan. Someone's going to have to drop from that.
Right.
Then we got like Utah, UCLA. There's a chance just with a win, people drop, y'all slide up.
That is very possible. And then Washington has fallen 6 spots. They got beat by UCLA. They are going to be playing Arizona State.
So that's an easy win coming up for them, a nice rebound. 22, we got Syracuse after a 59-0 versus WAG. Who is WAG? WAG, whatever.
Oh, no, but wag that out my face. Wagner, the Seahawks.
They
beat the Seahawks. Wait a second, Syracuse beat the Seahawks?
Geno Smith's looking very bad out there, apparently. He's actually looking good in the NFL. They've got NC State coming up. That'll be a tough test for them. 23, we've got Mississippi State. The Aggie Slayers rolling in Arkansas. I think Mississippi State is going to have a field day on that defense. Yeah. If Alabama ended up dropping, 49, with most of that game being with a backup quarterback.
I think Mississippi State will have fun time.
Mm-hmm. Then we've got, at 24, we've got Cincinnati. Wow, they're back. After, look who they beat. Oh, no, that's Tulsa. I was thinking Tulane.
Tulane beat Houston.
Didn't Tulane also beat y'all?
Yeah, but Tulane beat Houston. Houston was considered a good win at the beginning of the season. And then at 25, entering the charts, we have LSU.
The Fighting Irish. They're going to have to fight real hard against Tennessee this weekend to even make it a close game. Which I don't think it'll be.
I very much agree.
Just outside of the top 25, we got Washington State, Baylor, Florida State, Arkansas, James Madison in Florida, a couple others rounding off Maryland.
James Madison?
James Madison has 2 more votes than Florida.
Which is weird because James Madison's FCS.
And 35 more than Texas A&M.
Which is strange because they're FCS.
Actually, no, they're FBS.
Did they move up? Did James Madison move up?
So I guess so.
Yeah, okay. Well, now to look at our pick'em and sign off to go play some video games. Texas,
Oklahoma. I've got Texas. Quinn Ewers is coming back. I don't think this is a particularly close game because I think Oklahoma's awful.
I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma made it close, but if Texas comes out in purple with Quinn Ewers, I think they've got a chance.
It's a rivalry game. Oh, it's actually, rephrase what you said. If Texas comes out of the game with Quinn Ewers still healthy, I think they win.
Yeah.
They got TCU, Kansas up next. I'm going TCU on that one.
Kansas all day. Okay. Kansas all day is my opinion.
I was trying to help you out and make you all the best team in Kansas, but apparently you don't want to be.
I'm not. That has nothing to do with it. I just think they beat TCU. I don't think TCU's that good. I think TCU got lucky. Following that up with another top 20.
How did they get lucky?
They beat up Oklahoma's QB. Anyway, then following that up with another top 25, we have number 8 Tennessee and number 25 LSU.
I'm surprised this game's only an 80-20
Tennessee.
split on ESPN. Yeah, Tennessee all the way. After that, we've got Utah, UCLA. I think I'm going to go Utah. I think Utah has... I haven't watched UCLA, granted. I think Utah has the better defense.
I got to go with
a
UCLA.
Good enough offense.
UCLA is just coming off some good wins. I think UCLA has a better chance.
I'll be honest, I have a hard time trusting Chip Kelly to keep it up, too.
We'll see. I mean, he pulled it off at Oregon. Anyway, then we have North Carolina and Miami.
I'm going against my pick. I've got North Carolina. Miami has not looked good.
The only thing that can beat up a Hurricane is Middle Tennessee State.
Then we've got UTSA, Western Kentucky. If Western Kentucky beats UTSA, hey, they may put up a fight against Auburn, but
UTSA.
This is a battle against, in my opinion, two not great teams, with UTSA being the better of them. Coming up next, we've got the second best team in Kansas versus the second best team in Iowa.
They're the best team in Iowa because Iowa sucks.
I think they lost to Iowa.
Well, then that's a problem because Iowa sucks. Anyway,
I need to look this up. No, they beat Iowa 10-7.
Yeah, that's about how it goes.
Iowa State's coming off of a loss to Baylor and a loss to Kansas. I don't know. I might actually pick Iowa State in this game.
I am to pull a Lee Corso. Email.
That's lame. After that, we've got what might be the biggest spread of the week. We've got USC and Washington State.
That game's not going to be close.
USC's had some struggles. They struggled a couple weeks ago against whoever they played on midnight in the Pac-12 network.
Oregon State.
Yeah, and then they the defense struggled in the first half against Arizona State, but I think they've kind of put it back together. I don't think this is a close game. I don't think you do either.
Nope. Washington State all the way? I'm kidding. USA.
Then we got BYU and Notre Dame. So we got the Cougars. We got the Roaring Mormons versus the Irish. I'm going with the Mormons.
I think the Mormons beat up on the Irish.
Yeah.
Which is a great sentence. I don't know that
this will be a... Yeah, I got the Mormons all day on this one. So.
I think the Mormons beat up on the Irish.
After that, the last one, we've got Florida State versus NC State. I think Florida State has a shot at this one.
I do too, but I'm still going NC State.
I've got Florida State right now. That might change, though.
I guess we shall see.
Well, and then the tiebreaker is total points in TCU versus Kansas. I've got 999,997.
Nice. I got 65.
I won't say my actual number.
Well, whatever.
So I will say I realized what I did wrong. So the week I went up to Tennessee, it did not count my pick. I don't know if I mentioned this or not.
You did.
Did I tell you what went wrong?
No.
So I did pick that week, but I created a second entry for ESPN's college game day group and accidentally picked there. But what I can confirm from actually having it there is that I did pick Oregon to beat BYU that week. Okay,
cool. Well, we can take a look at who's in the lead.
Which was the upset in that one. I forgot Mississippi State lost to LSU.
Yep, they did. We'll see how it all goes. But
I did not. I was like 5 of 5 that week. I've been killing it though on my other one. I'm 29-14. I'm only behind because I didn't pick the 1 week.
Well, that is unfortunate.
You're 30-19. I'm 29-14, and I picked half of one of the weeks.
Nice.
Or I picked, how many was it? I think it was like I picked 4 games and went 1-3 in week 3. So if you take that week out, I'm 28-11.
Nice. Well, that is unfortunately all the time we have for today.